built on top of it and even incorporated some of the carved stones into the structure of the building itself. For this desecration, local legend says the devil cursed the site. William Conley never found out if it was cursed or not because he died a couple of years after. With that, the house remained vacant for a number of years until a group came along whose purpose was suited to the origins of the building. The group for which the building is known today, the Hellfire Club. Now, the Hellfire Club has developed quite a mythos and a pop culture status amongst over the last 200 years. I'm not talking about the Hellfire Club of heavy metal music or in the X-Men movie 2011, the bad guys. I'm not talking about them. I'm not talking even about the Illuminati conspiracy theory ones that influenced the founding fathers of America and turned Benjamin Franklin into a serial killer, if you believe certain rumors. Not talking about any of that. We don't believe those rumors. We're talking about the club which was founded in 1735 by Richard Parson, the Earl of Rose in Dublin. The club was a gentleman's club, which was essentially a centre for debauchery, drunkenness, whoring, gambling, the finer things that the rich and entitled at the time tended to enjoy. Now this is following on from the Enlightenment. So a lot of theological and sociological changes were happening, and a lot of that was trickling down through the upper classes. As a result, there was a lot of paranormal pageantry around these sorts of groups. I mean, the name itself is kind of a clue. The Hellfire Club, the president of the Hellfire Club was called the King of Hell, and he would wear false horns and false cloven hooves, a cloak and bat wings, and the vice president's chair was always left empty. There's like one there, just in case the devil himself decided to come in and wanted to meet at the seat. In the event that he didn't arrive, their first drink of the evening would be a toast to the devil's health. Now, whether they originally did this for thematic, theatric purposes or with some genuine theological occult slant, over time it seems that it took a turn to the dark. There are numerous stories around the area that not only was the club involved with a huge amount of drinking, whoring, and gambling, but also they involved themselves with black masses, demonic ceremonies, satanic rites, animal and human sacrifices. Unfortunately here, due to the secrecy of the organization, very little can be defined as true. A lot of it is shrouded in mystery. And even what we do know is further shrouded in folklore. There are tales of locals curious what's going on inside who crept up onto the mount, being spotted by the club. They've been dragged inside to witness the night's activity because they were curious. Of course, they're always found the next morning wandering the woods, pale as a sheet, deaf and dumb and unable to remember their own name. So, unfortunately, no evidence accounts. The club ruled over Montpelier for 6 years, sitting there like a big black crow at the top of the mountain, until its untimely end, and the sides are off. Unfortunately, even the story of how it ended is draped in the veil of contradictions, conflicting stories, and a good heaping helping of mythology. Even the more mundane of the stories is quite grisly though, so they're all fun. The simplest story is that after a particularly exciting and exhausting orgy, everyone was passed out on the floor, and a servant tiptoeing between the bodies accidentally decanted a drink on one of the sturdy gents. The gent enraged, got up, grabbed the servant by the foot of the collar, hosed him down with brandy and set him alight, taking the rest of the building and all the Hellfire Club with it. There are, however, more fantastical and exciting stories. My personal favorite says that when a child was found dead one morning at the base of the mountain, the local farmers had had enough. They grabbed their pitchforks, they summoned the local priest, and they ascended the mountain. They walked up and rapped on the door, and it was opened by a tall, hooded black figure. And the members of the Hellfire Club came from behind him, grabbed him, and dragged the farmers and the priests into the building, where a delicious banquet was set. Each man was forced to sit at the table, the priest taking the end, and when everyone was seated, a large black cat strode into the room, took a seat at the head of the table, where it sat hissing, flapping its head, poking, spitting venom directly at the priest. The priest recoiled in horror at this demonic presence and got up to leave and was forced back into his seat. At this moment he realized he had a vial of holy water in his pocket, which he threw at the cat as he chanted exorcism prayers. Upon striking the cat, the vial exploded into steam and mist and sulphur. The men, both the club members and the farmers, began to scream, and the priest gripped his rosary and said prayer after prayer. When eventually the smell of the sulphur choking his lungs became too much, the priest had to leave the building. And as he did, he found the ground outside was wet with blood. The members of the Hellfire Club and the farmers lay in the grass, their faces scratched down to the bone. And of course, that's the story. And if you'd like to visit the place the story is set, it still stands today, and you're more than welcome to take a walk up there. I'm sure it's perfectly safe, although people do occasionally report still today, it's an odd smell of sulphur in the building.